Zawadi grew up in a small, simple home in Kampala. Life was never easy, but she learned early how to work hard. While other girls her age were going out and having fun, Zawadi was juggling two jobs. One at a salon during the day, and another at a small restaurant in the evening. Every shilling she earned went toward helping her parents and younger sister. And of course David. David was her fiancé. He was charming with big dreams of starting his own business, though no one really knew what the business was. Still, Zawadi believed in him. She believed in people. That's just the kind of heart she had. When he said he wanted to propose, she didn't wait for him to save up. She offered to pay for half of the engagement ring. "It's not about the money," she told her friends. "It's about building a future together." Everyone admired her. They said she was strong, loyal, the kind of woman who would make the perfect wife. And Zawadi believed it too. She imagined a future where all her sacrifices would be worth it. A small house with laughter, kids, maybe even a dog. She thought if she just kept giving, life would eventually give back. But deep down she sometimes felt tired. Tired of carrying everything on her own. Still, she smiled through it all. After all, she was the loyal one. And loyal women always get their happy ending, right? Nasim was Zawadi's younger sister. And from the time they were kids, it always felt like life just handed her things. When they were little, Nasim got the bigger room even though Zawadi was older. When there was only enough money for one new dress, it always went to Nasim. She never had to ask twice. Somehow things just fell into her hands. Even the neighbors would say, "That girl is blessed." While Zawadi stood in the background, quiet, watching. Zawadi never complained. She told herself it didn't matter. She was the strong one, the responsible one. She let Nasim have the spotlight because someone had to take care of things. She worked, cooked, cleaned, helped pay school fees, and when David came into her life, she thought at least now she had something of her own. A love of her own. But soon, she started to notice things that didn't sit right. Nasim and David, laughing a little too long at a joke only they seemed to understand. Whispered conversations that stopped the second Zawadi entered the room. One time she caught them exchanging a look. Not the kind of look you give your sister's fiancé. Her stomach turned but she shook it off. "I'm overthinking," she told herself. "They're just being friendly." Still, a small voice inside her started whispering that something was wrong. But Zawadi didn't want to believe it. Not about her sister. Not about the man she was planning to marry. So she buried the doubt and forced a smile. Because that's what she always did. Kept the peace, stayed loyal, stayed silent. But deep down, cracks were starting to show. The girl who carried everyone's weight was beginning to feel it. And the betrayal, though not fully seen yet, was starting to knock at her heart. It happened just 1 week before the wedding. Zawadi had finished her shift at the restaurant early and decided to surprise David with his favorite meal. She walked home with a small smile, imagining his face when he saw her. But when she opened the door, the smile froze. There, in the middle of the living room, her living room, stood David and Nasim, kissing. For a moment, the world went completely silent. Zawadi didn't move. She couldn't. It was like time stopped, like her brain refused to believe what her eyes were seeing. David jumped back. Nasim turned pale. But it was too late. The truth was standing in front of her, loud and raw and ugly. She asked one question. Just one. Why? And their answer shattered her. David looked at her like she was the problem. "You're always serious, Zawadi," he said. "You made love feel like duty. Like a job." Nasim didn't say much. She just looked down, biting her lip like a guilty child, but not sorry. Not really. Zawadi felt like she couldn't breathe. After everything she had done for them, for both of them, this was how they repaid her? She had worked double shifts, cooked their meals, even paid for part of her own engagement ring. And now they stood there side by side blaming her for their betrayal? Her heart broke in a quiet way. No screaming. No throwing things. Just silence. Heavy, painful silence. She looked at them one last time, the two people she had trusted most in the world, and realized they were never really hers to begin with. Zawadi sat alone on the edge of her bed that night, staring at the diamond ring on her finger. The same ring she had helped pay for. Half of it was hers. Not just in money, but in dreams, in trust, in every quiet hope she had poured into her future with David. Now all of that felt like a cruel joke. She turned the ring slowly, watching how it caught the light. It used to shine with love. Now it looked cold. Empty. A reminder of betrayal. Her chest ached, but she refused to cry. Not for him. Not for them. She had cried enough over the years, for her family, for her struggles, for always being the one who gave and gave. This time she felt something shift inside her. A quiet strength. A sharp kind of clarity. She stood up, took one last look around the room they once shared, and pulled her small purse from the shelf. Carefully, without a word, she slipped the ring off her finger and dropped it into the purse. It landed with a soft clink, the sound of something ending. She walked out of the bedroom, past the living room where David and Nassim sat in awkward silence. Neither of them dared to speak. Maybe they expected yelling, maybe they were ready for a storm. But Zawadi gave them nothing. Just silence. She didn't look back. She didn't explain. She didn't ask questions or wait for excuses. She simply walked out. Not just from the house, but from the life she thought she wanted. And in that quiet exit, there was more power than any scream could carry. Because that night, Zawadi didn't just lose a fiancé and a sister. She let go of everything that didn't love her back. The morning after walking away, Zawadi woke up with swollen eyes and a quiet heart. She didn't have a plan, just a purse, some clothes, and the ring she no longer wanted. That diamond, once full of promises, now felt heavy with pain. But pain has a strange way of becoming power if you let it. She walked into a small jewelry shop in downtown Kampala. The same one David used when they picked the ring together. The jeweler looked surprised when she asked to sell it. "Are you sure?" he asked gently. Zawadi nodded. "Completely." He weighed the ring, checked the diamond, and made a few calls. After a quiet wait, he handed her a small envelope. Inside was 6 million Ugandan shillings. Just like that, the chapter was closed. But for Zawadi, it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Everyone she told thought she was losing her mind. "You're using all that money on fruit? You should save it for rent. Start small," they warned. But Zawadi had a vision, one she'd buried for too long. She had always dreamed of owning her own smoothie bar. A colorful place filled with health, joy, and fresh starts. She found a tiny spot on a busy street corner, painted it bright orange, and named it ZawaJuice. It wasn't fancy, just a wooden stand, a few crates of fruit, a blender, and her own 2 hands. But for the first time in a long time, she felt alive. She blended pineapples, mangoes, passion fruits, pouring not just juice, but pieces of her story into every cup. People started to notice. The taste was different. Real. Honest. Like her. Selling that ring didn't break her. Built her. And with every smoothie she sold, Zawadi was reminding the world, and herself, that sometimes the things meant to destroy us become the very things that set us free. Not long after ZawaJuice opened, the gossip started. And of course it came from Nassim. She posted a picture online, laughing with her friends. "My sister sold her engagement ring to sell pineapples." The comments rolled in quickly. People called Zawadi desperate, heartbroken, silly. Some even said she was chasing pity. Stung. Even though she had walked away, the pain still sat in her chest. And seeing her own sister mock her for chasing a dream made it worse. But Zawadi kept quiet. She didn't clap back. She didn't defend herself. She just kept blending. Every morning she opened her stand early, slicing fresh fruit by hand, smiling at customers, learning their names, their favorite mixes. But it wasn't just about juice anymore. Zawadi started giving free drinks to the street kids who wandered by hungry. Some of them stayed to help, washing fruit, cleaning the area, learning how to run the stand. She gave them t-shirts with ZawaJuice printed on the back. And for the first time they felt like they belonged somewhere. One day a customer recorded a short video. Zawadi laughing with the kids, handing out cups of juice, telling a story about how to spot ripe mangoes. The video went viral. People all over Uganda and even outside the country started sharing it. Who is this woman? This is what real empowerment looks like. Where can I find this stand? Suddenly, the same people who laughed at her were tagging friends, asking if ZawaJuice was hiring. Some of Nassim's online followers quietly unfollowed her and followed Zawadi instead. The pineapple joke didn't seem so funny anymore. Zawadi didn't post revenge. She didn't brag. She just kept working, pouring love into every smoothie, just like she had always poured love into people, except this time it was finally pouring back. And slowly the mockery faded. All that remained was respect. It was a sunny Thursday when he walked up. A tall man in a dark blue suit, polished shoes, and a kind smile. He looked out of place among the dusty street and fruit crates, but he didn't seem to mind. "What's your best flavor?" he asked. Zawadi smiled, wiping her hands on a towel. "Mango ginger," she said proudly. "Sweet with a little fire." He nodded. "I'll take that." As she blended the fruit, the man watched her work. There was something calming about the way she moved. Quick, confident, full of care. He took the smoothie, had one sip, and his eyes lit up. "This is brilliant," he said. They started talking. His name was Mr. Mboya. He ran a small fund that helped young entrepreneurs grow their businesses. He'd heard about ZawaJuice online and decided to see it for himself. "I thought it was just hype," he admitted. "But this is the real deal." Zawadi laughed, a little shy but proud. "It started with heartbreak," she told him. "And a ring I didn't want anymore." He listened closely as she shared her story. The betrayal, the ring, the first smoothie stand, the kids she helped. When she finished, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small notebook. "I want to help you grow," he said simply. "Not take over. Just support." Within a few weeks, Mr. Mboya invested in her dream. Not millions, just enough to buy better blenders, a fresh paint job, and a second stand in a nearby neighborhood. A few months later, they opened a third. Each stand kept the same heart: real fruit, real stories, and street kids given a second chance. People couldn't stop talking about it. ZawaJuice wasn't just a juice bar anymore. It was a movement, a place where people came not just for smoothies but for hope. Zawadi often thought back to that first painful night, walking away with a ring in her purse and tears in her eyes. Now she stood outside her third shop, the sign shining bright, and realized something beautiful. Sometimes your biggest heartbreak leads you stray into your biggest breakthrough. A few months later, news spread around town. David and Nasim were planning a wedding. They posted pictures online, trying to show off like everything was perfect. Matching outfits, filtered selfies, hashtags like #RealLoveWins. But behind the smiles, something was off. People weren't excited. Friends who once cheered for them now whispered behind their backs. Some even laughed. Word on the street was that the engagement ring David gave Nasim was fake. A cheap replacement after Zawadi sold the original one. The sparkle wasn't real. Just like their story. When the wedding day finally came, barely 15 people showed up. Half were distant relatives. A few looked uncomfortable, unsure if they were there to celebrate or just witness a mistake. The venue looked too big for the small crowd. Empty chairs. Quiet music. Forced smiles. No one danced the way people usually do at weddings in Kampala. Even the cake sat untouched longer than it should have. Meanwhile, Zawadi was in a completely different world. That same weekend, she had been invited to speak at a women's empowerment event. She stood on a stage in front of hundreds of young women, sharing her journey. How she turned heartbreak into a business. How she helped street kids find purpose. How she learned to stand tall with or without a ring. People clapped, some cried, and many lined up afterward just to hug her. "You gave me hope," one girl whispered. "You reminded me it's okay to start over." Zawadi smiled, wearing a simple yellow dress and no jewelry. Just confidence. She didn't need to post revenge online or throw shade. Life had done that for her. While David and Nasim's wedding trended for the wrong reasons, Zawadi's name was rising for all the right ones. Not as someone's ex, not as the girl who was cheated on, but as a leader, a builder, a woman who didn't just survive, she bloomed. And in the end it was clear. One wedding faded, but one woman's purpose had just begun. One quiet afternoon, Zawadi was wiping down the counter of her third ZawaJuice outlet when she looked up and saw a familiar face, Mr. Mboya. He wasn't holding a smoothie this time. No mango ginger, no pineapple passion. Just a folder in one hand and that same calm smile. She welcomed him warmly. "No juice today," she joked. He laughed. "Not today. I came for something bigger." He sat down and opened the folder. Inside were papers, plans, and a simple idea. To start a youth training center. A space where young people could learn business skills, personal development, and how to turn struggle into strength. And he didn't want to do it alone. "I've seen a lot of businesses," he told her. "But what you built? It's more than smoothies. You turned heartbreak into a brand. Into hope. That's leadership." Zawadi sat quietly, the words sinking in. For so long she had been focused on healing, on building, on surviving. She never imagined that her pain could shape something this big. Something that could change lives beyond hers. Mr. Mboya looked her in the eye and said, "This is a different kind of proposal, Zawadi. Not for marriage. For partnership. For purpose." Her heart raced. Not in a romantic way but in a powerful way. The kind of feeling you get when life shows you your next door. And this time it wasn't closing. She said yes. Together they started working on the project, building a training center in the heart of Kampala. They designed programs for young women, former street kids, and anyone who felt forgotten by the world. Zawadi shared her story at every session, not as a victim, but as a voice of resilience. She realized then that her journey was never just about bouncing back from betrayal. It was about helping others rise too. She didn't need a ring to feel chosen anymore. She had chosen herself, and now she was choosing to lift others with her. Zawadi stood at the front of a small classroom filled with young girls, some barely teenagers, all with big eyes and bigger dreams. She held up a photo, a simple wooden stand painted orange with a handwritten sign that read ZawaJuice. The girls leaned in curious. "This," Zawadi said, her voice calm but strong, "was built on betrayal." She paused, letting the words settle. "But also on belief." The girls listened closely as she shared her story. Not just about the ring or the heartbreak, but about finding her own power. How she had nothing but pain in her heart and a blender in her hands, and how that was enough to start something real. "I thought my life was over when I walked away from that house," she told them. "But sometimes walking away is the first step toward walking into your purpose." The girls clapped quietly, moved. One raised her hand. "Do you regret selling the ring?" Zawadi smiled. "Not for 1 second. I sold that ring and bought my freedom. Now she helps women from all walks of life start their own small businesses. Juice stalls, craft shops, tailoring corners. She teaches them not just how to earn but how to heal. How to believe in themselves again. She wears no ring on her finger. No diamonds, no gold. Just confidence. And every time she looks into the eyes of a girl who thought she wasn't enough, Zawadi sees a reflection of who she once was, and a reminder of how far she's come.